So Keir Starmer is expected to announce plans for a digital ID scheme which will be compulsory in order to work in the UK.
On Friday, Keir Starmer announced that his government would introduce a compulsory digital ID scheme to the UK by the end of the Parliament. This scheme would require UK citizens to use their digital ID to secure employment. This prompted 1.9 million people and counting to sign a petition on the Parliament website, which has become one of the fastest growing petitions in the UK.
This government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
The rationale for introducing digital ID cards was explained by Starmer as a way of dealing with the problem of illegal migration as part of a speech that was billed as a response to the rise of the populist right. Now, this makes the announcement all the more baffling, as the introduction of digital ID does nothing to tackle the real material issues that people face in their lives that will only be tackled with a bold progressive agenda from Starmer's government. The truth is that there was no real clamour amongst the public for digital ID, and it's highly unlikely that those in favour would place it anywhere near the top of their list of priorities, whereas opposition to the move is felt strongly, as evidenced by the sheer number of people who have signed the petition opposing the move in just a matter of hours.
But we think that they offer two benefits. The first is that they'll be able to make sure that people are able to prove their right to be here, to work here legally very easily, which will then help us to deal with the illegal economy and stop people being undercut at work. But we also think there might be big benefits as well for citizens. If you think about the way that the NHS app has developed in recent years, and now you're much more able to do things like make GP appointments online and access your medical records, we think there may be benefits to the general population as well.
The framing of the debate on Question Time on Thursday highlights the extent to which public debate on immigration has shifted to the right, starting with the uncritical use by the BBC of the thoroughly dehumanising expression small boats, which takes attention away from the people on the boats and centres the boats themselves, as if it was a conquering army arriving on our shores rather than a group of people claiming asylum. Indeed, what we know about the people who do arrive in this manner is that 2/3 of them have their asylum claims accepted, which means that they are people who have arrived here because they are fleeing war and persecution, who have been forced to break the law to seek asylum in the UK.
So what we're hearing is that the government is proposing to announce a mandatory digital ID system, the BRIC card, in order to reduce irregular migration. But it won't. There is no evidence that it would. Because what we've seen in countries like Greece and Germany, which have large underground economies, which have irregular migration, and which also have mandatory ID, is that there is no correlation between having mandatory ID and reducing irregular migration. But what we do know is that mandatory digital ID excludes people. It excludes people who are digitally excluded, people who might live in poverty, or people who may be older.
The proposal to introduce digital ID isn't new. Under Tony Blair's government, ID cards began being introduced from 2006, but were then scrapped by the coalition government when they came to power in 2010. Like much of Keir Starmer's political agenda, it smells of a bad tribute to Tony Blair's time in office, like you booked tickets to watch Take That, only to find that they've been replaced by a tribute band playing songs totally out of kilter with modern times.
We will pursue identity cards because they're right. We think it is legitimate and right in this day and age to ask people to carry identity cards.
In fact, Tony Blair's fingerprints are all over this new proposal to introduce digital ID, as evidenced by this video from just 5 months ago from the Tony Blair Institute, where Blair sets out the case for introducing digital ID.
The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable. It will allow us to judge who has a right to be in our country and who doesn't, and so solves one of the major challenges of immigration. My institute's own analysis shows that introducing this in the UK would save at least $2 billion a year and likely more by reducing losses to fraud, improving tax collection, and better targeting of state support. We know this because around the world, countries like Estonia, Singapore, even India, have successfully implemented digital ID systems, cutting red tape and improving efficiency. These nations aren't just adopting new technology. They are reimagining how the state itself works.
Since beginning his time in power, Starmer has surrounded himself with people from Blair's time in office, so it's hardly surprising that Blair himself is having an outsized influence. But this is very odd. It would be a bit like if Tony Blair had hired advisors like Marcia Williams from Harold Wilson's time in power in the 60s and 70s to advise him on how to govern in the 90s and noughties. So why on earth is it that people think that reheated Blairism is the solution to today's problems? After all, the rise of reform and the far right more generally is a product of the failure of the neoliberal policy agenda pursued by mainstream politicians since Thatcher and including Blair to meaningfully shift the balance of power between the haves and the have-nots.
What if I don't?
We'll have to have one. Well, the plan is that we're going to roll this out by the end of the Parliament.
My question is, what if I don't? What if I've got my job, so I don't need to show this to anyone, so what if I just don't do it?
So if you don't have one, then you'll have a problem if you want to get a new job.
No, I'm saying I'm not doing that. So I'm not seeking a job. So why should I get the digital ID card? Why do I do it? Well, is there some fine for not doing it? Is there an incentive to do it? I'm just thinking I've got no reason to do it.
Yeah, look, this isn't a heavy-handed approach. We're not planning to go around finding people. But what we are going to do is make sure that everybody's got one. In the same way, Charlie, as you've got a national insurance number, if you're a citizen of this country, we'll make sure that everybody has a digital ID.
So help me with this. I know we're plotting through this, but so everyone watching who's got a job has got a national insurance number. So when these digital ID cards exist, if I just go to my employer and show them my national insurance number, is that not sufficient? Are they being precluded from employing me?
It won't be sufficient. I just want to be really clear about that.
So they can't employ people unless they've seen one of these
a digital ID.
cards.
Yes, that's right. That is the plan. And the major benefit of that to the entirety of the UK is that we will therefore be able to disrupt the illegal market where people come to this country and work illegally and undercut British workers who...
It's not surprising that people are suspicious of the government's motivation for introducing this change. After all, this is the same government who have presided over and justified the mass arrest of peaceful protesters for holding up signs in support of Palestine action. But it's more fundamental than that for me. Even if I did trust this government, and I don't, with the technology being proposed here, we shouldn't be justifying policies that infringe on our privacy and freedom on the basis that we trust the government not to abuse the power. We should instead imagine what a government that wanted to use the system nefariously might do with it. Could they, for example, use the data amassed to monitor, track and profile people? And would these powers be used disproportionately against those who might want to exercise their right to protest and engage in civil disobedience?
Were in touch with me, but let me also give an honest explanation of what I said to those MPs. It's not up to me. It's not my decision. That's a matter for you, for the party in Parliament. And also I said to them, and it's got to be about more than a personality contest.
In the same week that Andy Burnham is being talked up as a potential challenger to Starmer as Labour leader, and with Labour languishing in the polls, the Labour Party conference looks to be another opportunity squandered by Keir Starmer. In the same speech that Starmer announced the plans for digital IDs, there was also an announcement that £5 billion was being earmarked for local communities to spend on their priorities to be decided democratically by the local community, whether this is rebuilding a community centre or renovating a playground. But this announcement, which is exactly the sort of populist policy that Starmer needs to be shouting about from the rooftops, was drowned out by the debate about digital ID. This is emblematic of the poor communication we've seen from Starmer since he came into office. And finally, just in the limited amount of time it has taken for me to make this video, the number of people who have signed the petition has grown to over 2 million. This is another costly own goal from a Prime Minister who must surely be on the way out.